We don't do it for the money, sure don't do it for the fame. We don't think we're superheroes, so we work real hard when we train. We're prepared to put up a good fight, 'cause we're the good guys. 24/7 we'll come running. It's a life we wouldn't trade. We'll always be there when you need us, 'cause that's just how we're made. We'll all band together fighting crime, 'cause we're the good guys. We're all brothers and sisters, and we're proud of what we do. Y'all got here the hard way to earn our badge and gun and booze. To serve and protect ain't just a motto, it's the truth. We'll take an oath with a right hand in the sky, 'cause we're the good guys. With blue lights flashing, sirens crying, be right there if trouble strikes. So if your world comes a-crashing, we'll do our best to make it right. It ain't just a job, it's a way of life when you're the good guys. We're all brothers and sisters, and we're proud of what we do. Y'all got here the hard way to earn our badge and gun and blues. To serve and protect ain't just a motto, it's the truth. We'll take an oath with the right hand in the sky, 'cause we're the good guys. We honor those who came before us. Some gave their lives, but not in vain. 'Cause there's one thing we all believe in. You do the crime, you gotta pay. We're serving our community with pride, 'cause we're the good guys. We're all brothers and sisters, and we're proud of what we do. We all got here the hard way to earn our badge and gun and blues. To serve and protect ain't just a motto, it's the truth. We'll take an oath with the right hand in the sky, 'cause we're the good guys. The good guys. We are 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 the good guys.
My official capacity is John's stepdad. There couldn't be a greater honor. And I'm going to try to do my best to represent the honor of his family and his friends, to share with you some things about him that I think you would like to know. Just bear with me Governor Lee, Mayor Briley, Chief Anderson, Chaplain Duke, Minister Tidwell, Fraternal Order of Police President Smallwood, Mr. Samuel Brewer, to those who serve our nation as members of our armed services, members of Clemson University administration, family, friends, and brothers, and especially to all of you in this majestic sea of blue. In particular, Sergeant Grega and all those who were on the detail to shepherd our families so that we could arrive by air and land from places all over the country. I think I can say on behalf of all our families that none of us would have been able to even make it here had it not been for your tireless efforts over the past 72 hours. Let me begin by thanking all of you for this outpouring of love and compassion and for lending us your collective shoulders to cry upon as we both mourn yet celebrate a life given in the call of duty. It is my honor to attempt to relay to you some of the things about Jay that I think you would like to know, and also share some of the things that I think he would want us to hear. As I mentioned earlier, please bear with me as I stumble through this. We'll get through it together. There have been so many kind words, gestures, handshakes, hugs, looks in the eye, and through them all are love. I was on the way home about a month ago, and my cell phone rang. It was Jay. I picked up, and I could hear the determined excitement in his voice. He had just finished his discovery flight in a Cessna 172 aircraft. This was an initial flight where he got to go up with an instructor pilot and get a feel for flying. That one flight had him hooked. I knew he had an interest in flight. We had talked at one point about his possibly pursuing training and flying in the police's helicopter squadron. That would have been way cool. Learning to fly had always been one of my dreams too, so after a lengthy and very detailed discussion, and as those who knew Jay could relate, he was a master at the details. We decided we would both begin flight lessons in January of next year. A day or so later, in typical Jay fashion, he had done all of his research and had his learning and ground school materials already on the way, and he was ready to get going. Learning yet another skill. Jennifer and John called Jay Little Jaybird when he was a tyke. Well, Jaybird was going to learn to fly, and flying lessons would be just the latest in a long list of pursuits and achievements. I often refer to Jay as a modern Renaissance man. I have never met someone who had so many unique and diverse talents. Someone who was a lifelong hockey player, a guy who could come home sweaty, stinking from a hockey match, and then transition and draw art that was worthy of being in a museum. A young man who enjoyed learning, researching, and reading about his Scottish heritage. We all know he was an Eagle Scout and a Marine. Someone who knew history and enjoyed a good discussion and could debate about just any topic on the planet. And if he could not win the debate outright, he could outlast you in the discussion to get there. He would have been a great politician. If you ever needed someone for a filibuster, the young man had verbal stamina, and I loved talking to him. Jay had so many passions and pursuits, it was difficult to keep up with them all, and to try and comprehend when he had the time and energy to be so well versed in so much was mind-blowing. I could go on and on about the things he could do. From being an accomplished technical scuba diver to someone who could concoct the most wonderful dishes in the kitchen or on the grill. He could make beef jerky that would knock your socks off. And had he decided to leave the police business and do that full time, he could have started his own brand. For that matter, Jay was his own brand. We even toyed around with the idea, Jay's Jerky. That was Jay, someone who simply had a zest and zeal for all that life has to offer. But these things were just a small part of a man who represented so much more. Earlier in the spring, I mentioned to Jay that I wanted to start composting. We live in the mountains, and I like to vegetable garden and do landscaping. So within 2 weeks, Jay drove 5 hours from Nashville to the little town of Brevard where we live and built me a 3-section composting bin. He went to Lowe's down the street, picked up all the stuff because I was at work, brought it to the house, put it together, and it was something worthy of a master carpenter. The reason Jay did this, he was a giver. He was action. He was a guy who would jump in with both feet and do anything for you. And he did. And he did so for so many sitting in this room and in ways too vast to list. And he would do it all with a smile on his face and with a song playing in the background. Speaking of songs, one of the most beautiful talents that I thought Jay had was making music. He had a natural ear for melody and song, could play numerous instruments, most of them self-taught. Guitar, mandolin, banjo, trumpet, drums, saxophone, and bagpipes. He did not limit himself in terms of what he was willing to learn or challenge himself to do. If it was something he was interested in, he was going to do it. And he wouldn't do it halfway. I don't know how he covered so many topics in so much depth. I think about the only thing that I've come across that he couldn't do was sing. I mean, he could sing, but when he and I would sit around and play the guitar together, and well, he would play and I would just try to keep up. That was just one thing he sort of preferred not to do. It sounded a little bit like bagpipes. But there had to be one thing, right? There had to be one thing. But you see, Jay's life was music. His was an orchestra of love, a concert of caring, a musical score of service, and ultimately, a wondrous symphony of sacrifice. You and I have been told about Jay's accomplishments as a 4-year police officer, which included multiple awards. Did you know that the first time he saved a life came when he was in Boy Scouts in the summer between 8th and 9th grade? I just learned that this morning. That does not surprise me, though. He rescued a swimmer from drowning during camp that year. And here's what I think. I think there are so many good things that Jay did that went unrecognized, undocumented, and unnoticed, except for the person for whom he did it, that it could fill volumes. And Jay never needed recognition. In fact, it was my opinion he preferred to do his good in solitude. Jay was an avid outdoor enthusiast with a degree from Western Kentucky. He was at home in the woods, fields, and streams. He had a profound appreciation for the natural, a good campfire, and the whispering of the wind through the trees. I remember the first time Jay brought Caitlin to Brevard. It was in November and rather cold out, as I recall. Caitlin had not been camping before, so Jay set up a complete camp in our backyard just to give her the initial experience. I mean, he had the camp stove and the tent and a fully functional campground. This was all set up by like 20 minutes from the time he got there. It's amazing. And it was all also within sight of my kitchen window, which was a sort of fun to watch. I thought to myself, they'll be back in by 10 o'clock. Well, they stayed out that night, as Jay simply wanted to share something meaningful to him with Caitlin, even if it was just one limited excursion. I do recall that they stayed in the house the next evening. And that was according to Caitlin. Another day, another drive home, another call. It was Jay. This time a different kind of excitement was in his voice. A deeper, more profound excitement. It was in this conversation that he informed me, and subsequently his mom, that he was little Gavin's dad. Jay embraced this status immediately with full vigor, energy, and enthusiasm with which he pursued all his passions. Only this time it was multiplied by a factor of 10. I know that I speak on behalf of all the family when I say that we are here for you, Gavin, and your mom, Chris, in any way we can be. Gavin, at 18 months old, I know you were too young to understand, but you are the living legacy of a modern-day hero. Jay's eyes literally sparkled when he was with you and holding you. And he was so looking forward to a new life and a new chapter with you, Caitlin, and Liam, all under the same roof. Jay had taken on the role of parenting and fatherhood as only Jay could, and he covered more ground in this brief time than some do in a lifetime. Jay was a profound example of a son and a brother. He beamed with pride when speaking of his father, and his eyes filled with love when Jennifer was in his presence. And when Jordan would text us some of his spectacular photography and video work, you know who the first to respond was with words of encouragement and support? You guessed it. Our hero. Jay so enjoyed spending time with his dad, Molly, Jacob, Grace, and Claire, and his trips to their house were always something that he shared with us with true joy and excitement, and in the true storytelling fashion that was uniquely Jay's. These are about a few of the highlights of a life illuminated from within, whose glow warmed the hearts and souls of all he came in contact. My words are simply too insufficient to relay the depth and the breadth of all that Jay was. His life will live on through the memories and honor of his blood and those he loved, served, and befriended. I mentioned in my opening remarks that there are a few things that I think Jay would want all of us to hear. And I feel it is important to share what's on my heart as best I can in a way that I think Jay would want.